Hi everyone, back for another tutorial. I've had a request to show how to cut in a fringe by one of the lovely ladies on one of the Facebook groups that I'm part of. So here we are, we're going to do a fringe, although to be fair, asking how to cut a fringe is like saying how long is a piece of string. Because there are so many different types of fringes and quite a few different ways of cutting them, and as years go by people invent new fancy smancy ways of doing them as well. So I'm going to show you how I do fringes. As a retired hairdresser, I've cut quite a few fringes over the years. So I'm going to show you a basic fringe, a shaped fringe, or like a wispy fringe, sort of tell you how to do it, and hopefully it will be of help to you. So here we go. First of all, you need your wig. What I would suggest doing, if you can, just because it's easier, I think it's easier, is if you've got a mannequin head that you can use, because you can see all the way around. You're not trying to do it while it's on your head in the mirror. But not everybody has that, so you often just have to make do with what you've got. But anyway, first of all, even if you have got a mannequin head, I would suggest popping the wig on your head first of all. You'll have a rough idea of the sort of fringe that you want and the length that you want the fringe to be. And I would take a very small, tiny section and just let it lay across your face. And then you'll have an idea of where you want the fringe, what sort of length you want the fringe to be. And I would cut that tiny piece a little bit longer than what you want it to be, because then when you've cut the fringe you can always take more off, but obviously with a wig it's not going to grow, so you can't put it back on. So I'm going to say there, okay? So that's your guide, okay? So take your wig off, pop it back on your mannequin head, and then you're ready to go. Now this is a really old, well I say really old, it's not really old, but it's a really cheap, tatty, naff TikTok wig. I think it was the second wig that I ever purchased. It was only about 12 quid. But it's meant to be beige, but it's not. It's the most bizarre colour. It's like burgundy and dirty white. It's very strange. Anyway, so I've never wore it because it looked worse than a fancy dress. So anyway, this is what we're going to use as a demo, because I'm never going to wear it. So you give a light spray of water onto the hair, and then first of all we need to section the hair. Now if you want a very heavy fringe, you'll need a deeper, wider section, and we're aiming for a triangle shape, okay? So usually and ideally from a center parting, this is where we start our section. So that's the point of the triangle coming down either side. The hairline is the bottom of the triangle. So if we're going to go for a wide fringe, big chunky heavy fringe, clip your side back to get that out of the way, and the same size the other side. It's a little bit tricky doing it on wigs because obviously you've got wefts stitched across, so you can't always get a perfectly straight line, but what you're aiming for is a nice clean parting from the top of the triangle down to the hairline, and then the same this side, top of the triangle down to the hairline. It's not always doable, but as close as you can get to it. See, I'm not quite sure that's a knot. Not quite sure where that is there, but anyway, so we'd clip that out of the way. So that would be for a nice, heavy, chunky, thick fringe, okay? That sort of thickness and a nice, deep triangle. If you want a much thinner fringe, you reduce the height of the triangle at the top. So you would start it lower down in effect losing that top bit, which would be the thickness of the fringe. But you still, excuse my dog barking in the background there, that's Nora. But the width is still the same, but it's not as heavy. It's a thinner fringe. Okay. If you want a narrower fringe, so you've got more side length at the sides, then you would reduce the width of the triangle. So from the top you would come down to there, still a triangle, but a not so wide triangle. So again, still a triangle section, but much smaller. It can be taller, so it would make your fringe a bit thicker, but it wouldn't be as wide on the face. So it's entirely up to you what you're after, size-wise, of the fringe. So I'm going to bring those little bits back in, so that we've got sort of an average size fringe. That needs to come down a little bit there. So tricky on wigs because of the wefts. Let's pull that. Right, there we have our section. Now, if you want a straight across blunt fringe, then that's what we're aiming for. You need to find your guide bit that you cut to the right length in the middle, somewhere where we can find it. Oh, that little bit there it was. So you would cut from the centre, so you would include, you can just see through the hair the little guide section that I cut. So you would start with your guide and you would cut across there, then pull in another little bit of hair, keeping the fingers next to the mannequin head. If you pull them out, you'll get like a layering effect underneath, and that top hair will be shorter than underneath. So when you let it down, you would get like a slight graduation there, which would be not what you want really. You want it all one length for a chunky fringe. So using the section you've just cut there as the guide, you would cut the next bit the same, pull in another piece of hair, still using what's been cut as the guide, cut the next section, final bit, cut the next section, and then you would have that line. Then you do exactly the same for the other side. Start with your center piece that you've cut, is the length that you want. Pull in the next piece, cut to the same length as the first piece. Try to keep your finger at the same sort of level and angle as what you had this side. And again, pull in the last piece of hair, keeping it nicely combed and cleanly in your fingers, and cut. Then you comb it down, check that you've got some straightness to it, that you're not shorter one side than the other. If you are, you'll need to just take a little bit more off the bit that's uneven to make it straight. Now, if you want a shaped fringe where it's slightly shorter in the middle and then it curves down and is longer to the sides, there's a couple of ways of doing it. The more recent gimmicky way of doing it, there's no other way to say it, it is a bit gimmicky, that sort of thing didn't exist when I did my hairdressing training. You just had your basic techniques. But it does work, but you still have to even it up afterwards. It's not completely foolproof. The way you can do it, I'm sure you might have seen lots of people do it on social media, is you twist the hair. You can twist it twice, it will work. But you twist it, and you have to have very sharp scissors for this to get a decent cut. You then cut across, then when you let go of the hair, it will be slightly shorter in the middle and go shaped longer at either side. You will, guaranteed, you will have to go in and trim it up. One side might be slightly longer than the other, but you will have it. You won't get it right in, not unless you're not that bothered about accuracy. You won't get it right in the first go, because your scissors have to be really sharp to cut through, to cut it cleanly, and your fingers have to hold the same sort of tension either side in the twist. So it's tricky to get it completely foolproof in that first go. The other way of doing it is starting with your center section, cutting to your guide length that you originally cut when it was on your head, snip across, then you pull a piece on one side across, and you use your fingers to cut an angle, and from the piece that's cut to your guide length, you cut down, you pull your other piece over and cut. Then when that goes back, you'll have your middle section to your desired length, and it will naturally be shaped with a slight little bit of feathering. Then you do exactly the same the other side. Include in with your middle section, pull over another piece, pull over, cutting at the angle downwards and pulling over and cutting down. And then you go, and to check evenness either side, is you start from the hairline with your fingers with a little bit of tension, and you pull down, and you can feel when you get to the same length, and if one's a little bit longer than the other, then you pull it all across and trim a little bit off. Or this side, trim a little bit off. And then you'll have that shaped fringe. There may be some ladies out there that want a very wispy, sort of half fringe almost. Maybe that they wear their hair across to the side, but they want a little bit of wispy fringe underneath. In that case, you would leave your parting where it normally is, if your wig is either a left or a right part, whichever. And then you would clip the hair out of the way, and you would have a very small section underneath. Let's say this is the side parting, and that hair would go across like that. You would clip that out of the way. There is the section that you're going to cut into your fine wispy fringe. Or you can do the same principle if you're going from a centre parting. If you just want a soft wispy fringe, it's exactly the same principle as if you're cutting straight across, or if you want it very slightly shaped down. You would go to the guide length, cut your first piece, which would be there, pull the rest of the hair in, either cutting straight across or pulling forward to shape, or you could twist it and cut. And then if you want to, once you've cut your desired length, to make it even more wispy, you can cut in upwards into the ends. You can go downwards as well, but you need a little bit more of a steady hand for that one, and a little bit more practice, I think, with that one. The easiest way to do it, imagine you've got your fringe cut that length. You would just cut upwards, probably a good inch, I would say, upwards, and it just softens the edge of the hair. And you could do that all the way along, and that you would have your soft wispy fringe. Now, what fringe should I cut? What one should I show you? What's the most difficult one to do? I think probably the shaped one might be the most difficult, so I'll do that. So I clip that out of the way. Yeah, we've got our triangle. Wet it down a little bit. Always wet it. Yeah, I think it's a little bit easier to do if it's wet. You've got a little bit more control over it if you're not sure what you're doing. Once you do know what you're doing, you can do it dry. I often do. I've often done, I don't wear a fringe anymore, but I often have done fringes dry, more than wet over the years, because I'm so well practiced at it. But having it wet, it just gives you, it just stops it flying away, and you just have a little bit more control over it. Okay, so I'm not going to do the twisty one because I don't want to blunt my scissors. They're not, I don't think it's sharp enough. I need some new scissors. These are my wig scissors. I need some new ones for cutting. So I'm just going to take the top section out of the way, so you've not got such a thick amount of hair to cut. It would just give you a little bit more control over what you're doing and make you feel less frantic, I think. So we take our middle section, now where is the guide? I've lost the guide. Where did I do it to? I can't remember. Oh, there it is. Right, so keep a little bit of tension from the scalp And I was always taught to never cut above the fingers, always to cut below the fingers so that you have control. If you feel nervous doing it, cut little bits at a time. Just little tiny bits, just do a little bit at a time. And then that way you've got less chance of cutting the wrong piece. And now we're going to start, we've got that center piece, we're going to start to pull the hair over to give it a little bit of a shape. Not a lot, just a little bit. So as we're shaping down this side, we're cutting upwards to achieve that angle, okay? Another little piece of hair. Keeping your fingers against the face of the mannequin. Cut. There. This is quite a long fringe, obviously. And I'm sat down, so it's easier for me. If it was up shorter, it'd make my arms ache a little bit too much, I think. Because I've got arthritis in my joints as well, and they get a bit sore and a bit restrictive with movement. So, right, we're doing the other side now. So we've got a piece of that centre, and we're now cutting downwards to follow the shape. Pull that across. See, now it's starting to dry and it's getting a little bit out of control. So we'll damp that back down, a little bit on there as well. Keep it nice and damp. Right. Now it's definitely going to be longer that side because I'm sat over to one side. Pull your fingers down and you can feel it's very slightly longer that side. So we'll just recomb it, keep it nice and taut between your fingers. Take a little tiny bit off because it was not a lot longer. And you see, by pulling it over, you get a little bit of layering, just a little bit of graduation, just at the very bottom there. So now you've done your bottom, you now pull down your top section of your fringe, and you do exactly the same process. Middle piece, you can clearly see where you've cut. God, they are getting blunt, these scissors. Comb it. There, you can clearly see either side is cut, so this bit is very easy. You just join it up to the other side. This side pulling over this way, very easy again. You can see exactly what needs to be cut. There, and that is your fringe. Now this is a heavyish fringe, and also it wants to part either side as well, but that's okay. Now on wigs, if you've got a longer fringe, you can easily style that with some heat and then bring that back up if it is a little bit too long for you, you don't want to risk cutting it anymore, you can just make it higher with heat and a round brush, and it will stay there because of it being a heat friendly synthetic. If you want it to go across like that, keeping a little centre bit, that's easy enough to do as well with your round brush. Do it under first and then backwards with the high hairdryer. Allow it to cool, and then when it comes down it will naturally part and give you that sort of curtain effect, and you can keep that little bit down in the middle. If you want to make it, you can layer it if you want to. That's taking your fringe to the next level. If you want to make it not so heavy, you can layer it. I don't know if that's in camera. You can pick up the section and you'll see the angle where the top hair will be longer, and you can, if I bring my hands in you can see, you can cut into that and make it less blunt. That will give you a layered, lighter effect rather. If you want to cut into the ends to make them less blunt and make them wispier, literally like that. And when that is dry, it will give you a more feathered, wispier, less heavy effect. If you want to make face framing, all you need to do is just continue when you're cutting that shape, continue and pull in hair and then pull it right over and cut, so that you, from that center piece pulled across, you'll get, following the angle of the comb, you'll be cutting down like that, and then the same the other side, pull across from that center guide length, you'll be cutting that angle down there. And by pulling it forward when you cut, when it goes back, it will naturally have graduation and give you that feathered effect. That's it. It is actually quite simple, but the whole thing with doing it a little bit longer first, if you're a bit nervous, because it is a bit nerve-wracking, especially cutting the wig, because like I said, once you cut it, you've cut it. You can't wait for it to grow like our own hair. It is what it is. So always cut it a little bit longer than what you think you're going to want it, because you can always go over that again and cut a little bit more off. What you can do, if it's only a little bit too long, you can just chop in the ends like that, and it will make it light enough so that when it's dry, it will naturally be shorter and lighter, so it will go up a little bit more. That's it with fringes. It's entirely up to you, and if you've cut it and you've dried it, you've put it on your head and you think, I want it wider, I want it thicker, just do it again. Wet it, include more hair, make it a little bit wider if you want. If you want to think to yourself, I want face framing, bits coming in as well, then do that and just continue and follow with what you've already done. If you've given yourself a blunt fringe and then you've put it on and you think, actually I would have liked it shaped, you can still do that. You can include the face framing bits, take it a little bit further back, make it include a bigger section, pull that bit to cut to the length there, pull your bits over the straight fringe, they will go back, they will cover a little bit of the side, and I will then cut into the bottom to make it nice and feathery, so that it reduces the heaviness of the fringe. There's always a way to resolve it, unless you cut too short. Then you're going to have to go down the funky modern micro fringe route if you go too short, or turn it into a headband wig. That's about the only way you can resolve that. But yeah, hopefully that is useful information to people. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments and I will do my best to answer and help out. Okay, see you at the next one. If anyone's got anything that they would like me to do, again, just comment, or if you see my posts in any of the wig Facebook groups, just drop me a message there. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.